What's up, guys? I've been getting a ton of questions about how do you actually create a budget. So today we're talking about how to create your budget. Pretty straightforward. Okay, budgeting is one of those things that I actually really truly used to hate. I hated budgeting. I thought it was so restrictive. I thought it was really difficult. I felt like I was never sticking to my budget. It was just all of these things were actually more mindset blocks, but it was a pain in the butt. I really truly hated it. But luckily, I have found some ways to creating a budget that actually works for my life and doesn't make me feel like I'm stressed out and pulling out my hair all the time. Can you relate to that? Okay, so when it comes to budgeting, it's gonna get ugly before it gets better. So just bear with, it's going to be a tough process in the beginning, especially if you've never lived on a budget before. It's really, really important that you do create a budget. A budget is like a roadmap, right? You're going on a road trip and you have to have your GPS. If you don't have your GPS, you're gonna end up in a totally different area. You're gonna end up in a spot that you don't even know where you're at. It's a really big deal. That is why budgets are so critical. I don't care if you make $5,000 a year or $5 million a year, you still have to learn to live on a budget. Money is one of those things where you have to manage it well before you get more. So it's a really big deal that you try to figure this stuff out. So let's break it down into what is step number one for creating a budget that works. Step number one is pull your bank statement and or your credit card statement for the past 30 days. So I want to see all of the transactions. And then once you have that pulled up, I want you to print that off. Yes, it wastes paper, I fully understand, but print that off for the past 30 days. Grab 3 different colored highlighters, a calculator, and a pencil, and then go through and highlight line by line which categories you've spent money on. So I personally like to do just 3 categories that I tend to either overspend on or I'm just not sure how much I spend on. So for most people, that's eating out, it's coffee, and maybe it's Amazon or some type of entertainment. This is super unique to you. There's no right or wrong answer, but I want you to write down on top of your statement 3 categories that you tend to overspend on. Assign a highlighter color to each of those categories. So maybe eating out is yellow, coffee is green, Amazon is blue, whatever it might be, and then go through and line by line highlight each of those transactions that fit those different categories. Once you're done with all of your highlighting, then you're gonna take your calculator and you're gonna type everything in there, you're gonna add it all up and get a total for how much you spent for the past 30 days. Now, this seems simple, but I promise you, this is the most eye-opening exercise you will ever do. Every single time I do this with people, immediately their brains just explode because they didn't realize how much money they were spending. So it's really interesting and it's really crazy. Once you go through this exercise, then you have a better idea of what you should be forecasting or planning for the next month. And that is step number 2 to creating a great budget. I want you to go through and list out every single monthly expense that you have. List them all out. So all of your expenses, all of the due dates, the minimum amount due, don't forget to include your debts, the due dates, also important. And then once you have that, we have a better idea of all of your monthly expenses. We want both fixed and variable expenses to be listed out. So the fixed expenses, things like your house, your utilities, gas in your car, that kind of stuff, all listed out. Variable expenses being the things that you did from the bank statement exercise, which was our step number 1. If you have to push pause on this video, do it and go through these exact steps as I talk about this, because this is super important, guys. You've got to get clear on what your normal monthly expenses are. If you don't know, you're gonna constantly blow through money and feel like you're never getting a good grasp on this stuff. So that's why it's so important that you get very, very clear on what your normal monthly expenses are. Now, step number 3 is to figure out your income. How much money do you actually bring in on a normal monthly basis? This is very, very tricky if you're paid variably. So if you're paid variably, let's keep it super simple. I want you to look at the past data. We don't want to just pull a number from the sky. We want it to actually be based on some type of accuracy. So we're forecasting appropriately. And what we're doing is we're just looking at the past few months of your income. How much money did you bring home last month? What about the month before? What about the month before that? So once you have a better idea of what your income looks like, you can use the lowest of that income. If you're a little extra conservative like me, use the lowest income amount and then use that to budget. That's your planning purpose. So you know if you make only $1,500 in 1 month, then that's what you have to survive off of. And anything above $1,500 is a nice surprise, or allows you to have some more of the luxuries in life. Maybe more eating out. Maybe that's more of your gym classes, your yoga classes, whatever it might be, your travel fund. Don't forget travel fund. But that's where that's gonna come from. So we've gotta get your baseline income, which is the lowest your income will ever be, realistically, based on history. We're not just guessing, we're looking at your actual numbers. So then once you have your income done, we are ready for step number 4, which is actually to put it all together in a budget. So what I like to do is I like to use this template. You guys can download it at whitneyhansen.com/budget template. And then you could go through this exactly with me. So I like to start with income at the very, very top. See this little section? That's where you will jot in your income. And then from there, you're gonna list out all of those expenses into this little column over here. So you've got your bills, amounts, and due dates. Don't forget to include your debt in there. And we're doing just the minimum payments on debt at this stage. So once you list all these out, it's going to populate your budget template. And then from there, you'll see at the very, very bottom, it says $0. This is a zero-sum budget. What this means is every single dollar has a job. Every single dollar has a purpose. And it's really important that we budget everything out and we give every single dollar a purpose, make it very intentional, because that is where you start to get results. If you have any money just chilling in your account that's currently not accounted for, if you're anything like me, you're probably gonna spend it or you're gonna blow it on crap you don't really need. So that's why it's so critical that every single dollar has a job. Every single dollar is intentional. And you'll notice this little section here that says transfer amount or your free income. The free income is just basically your expenses subtracted from your income, and that's the leftover amount that we have to allocate somehow. So if you are trying to pay off debt, I highly recommend putting that transfer amount all towards your debt. If you're already out of debt, then that's where it gets really kind of fun. You can put more into your investments. You can put some into a travel fund. Maybe you're saving for a really awesome new house, and so this is your house down payment fund. It gets really exciting once you can start paying down debt. But for most people watching this specific channel and working with me, usually have some type of debt, so that's where I would highly recommend you debt snowball the approach, and then start to pay off debt a little bit more quickly. So that's your budget, but we're not done yet. There's an important piece, and if we stopped here, this is probably why you feel like your budget sucks, why it never actually works. Because you create it, you get it all written out, you've got all of your detail, but it's the follow through that matters most when it comes to budgeting. So when you're creating your budget, the next important step is to set money dates with yourself. What is the money date? It's basically just a way for you to check in with your financial life. It's on the calendar, it's penciled in. It is one of those things that you will always keep that appointment to yourself because it matters. And ideally, your money dates are on the exact same day, the exact same time, every single week. We're trying to build up that habit of intentionality and checking in with your financial life. So what you're doing over that exact money date period is you're updating your budget. In the budget template, there's that actual column in the middle. Basically, every single week, you're doing a formula. You're just adding up all of your transactions and you're putting it right in that middle column so you know exactly how much money you have left in your account. So in each of the budgeted categories. Now, this is so important, guys. If you do not check in with yourself, if you do not update your budget every single week, yes, your budget will never work. It just won't. But if you take the time to check in with yourself and you do the right thing, you spend the time, you put your energy into it, I promise it will work if you do the work. Also, during your money dates, this is your time to really check in with yourself. So yes, you're updating your budget, that's awesome, but the next important piece is to visualize, what do you want your goals to look like? What does life look like for you? How does it change? What does it look like once you start to pay off your debt? When you're sticking with your money plan, what type of life does that afford you? It's really important that you start to think through what you actually want your financial life to be working towards. If you're just budgeting for the sake of budgeting, but there's no why behind it, it feels kind of crappy. It feels like you're not really making progress in ways that are exciting to you. You're not pursuing your passions. It's important that we start to spend money on what matters most to us and cut the other crap out. And that's what money dates allow you to do. It allows you to dream bigger. It allows you to check in with yourself. It gives you that accountability that we all need to stick with our financial plans. It's very, very important to set those money dates and honor that time commitment to yourself. So that's it, guys. Really, if you stick with those steps, you will be able to create a budget that works for your life. The first month and a half-ish suck. So just be prepared. It's not gonna be pretty. You're probably gonna be over budget in some categories and under budget in others. And that is 100% normal. So don't get discouraged, just keep working at it. And by the 3 to 4 months in, it's gonna start working, I promise, especially if you're sticking with your money dates. So I hope these tips have helped with you creating a budget and a money plan for your life. If you have liked this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It means the world to me and I hope that you have got some inspiration from this specific video about how to create a budget. Remember, if you want abnormal results, you have to do abnormal things. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you later. Bye. I think I need some more coffee. Probably.